So first panel discussion that we have is on 2019 internet trends. They say it's the authoritative version. So we'll be hearing from people who are in the industry, who are in the know about what's happening. And we hope that at the end of this session, you'd have more information to make better decisions around the internet space, internet and ICT space. So I'd like to invite the panelists to come up. First, we have Dele Amire of NISTEC, and he's also been a long-time instructor at ngNOG. My boss. This is another of my ogas. And we have Segun Oyetunji from Airtel. He was with us yesterday, gave us a very good presentation. He'll be presenting again today. He'll be on this panel. We have Mr. Ayotunde Koka of Rack Center. We have Mohammed Rudman again of IXPN. Thank you very much, Mohammed. And I'm so sorry. Microphones, please. So I'll hand over to Dele now. Well, we'll try to get your mics.
Thank you so much, Dewale. So while we're waiting for the microphones, it's important for me to just let you know some of what we'll be looking at in this session. We'll actually be taking a closer look at the subscriber statistics across Nigeria, how the different towns and cities compares in terms of technology use, type of access, content distribution strategies, the traffic patterns in terms of volume, origin, and destination, what significant events have occurred, and what are the resulting impacts presently, and then what are we looking at in the next 12 to 18 months, looking at the internet trends in Nigeria. I believe our mics, can you just check to confirm that your mics are working? I would like to start from Mr. Segun, being one from the providers, one of the major providers around. He's from Airtel. We would like to just have an idea of what the subscriber statistics looks like in terms of spread across towns and cities in Nigeria, from your own perspective as one of the major providers in Nigeria.
Okay, hello. Is it working? Okay. All right. So already we know that in the internet space in Nigeria, I think mobile telephony is occupying like 99.7% according to NCC. So whatever statistics I'm giving at least could be taken as 100% statistics, okay? So in the internet space, actually, across cities, of course, we have Lagos as the major place. So if you're taking the top 5 cities, we'll be talking about Lagos, Abuja, Edo, that's Benin, Rivers, and Asaba. You know, those are where we have the highest penetration of 4G. I'm talking 4G because 4G actually drives more of the data. Recently, you know, in the statistics in mobile space, 4G has overtaken the other technology. That means 2G, 3G in pulling the data. Okay, formerly, you know, it used to be 2G, 3G together, you know, ahead of 4G. But now we're seeing 4G ahead of 2G, 3G. Though the number of users are yet to meet up with 2G, 3G, but because of the speed of 4G, it's actually, you know, providing more data. And in the other places, so followed after, if you're going to rate it on a scale of 1, 2, 3, 1 being the highest, those 5 cities will be on the scale of 1. And on the scale of 2, we'll talk about other southwestern states in Nigeria, and then some in the middle belt, and a few more like Kano, Kaduna in the northern side. But of course, because of some political issues or security issues in some places, it's actually impeding the penetration of 4G in places like Borno, Adamawa, and all the closer places. Because you don't know, the operator cannot do the fiber, cannot lay the fiber to these places because of security and all the rest. So that's how it goes on a 1 to 3, scale of 1 to 3.
Wow. Thank you so much. I believe one of those things that we can really lay most of this uneven, let me call it uneven distribution of users across is basically on infrastructure to some extent. I hope I'm right in that.
Not absolutely. We cannot lay it on infrastructure alone. We also lay it on the availability of the devices to support, for instance, 4G. 4G smartphones in recent times, are just beginning to come down in prices. Formerly, an average 4G smartphone that you'd get will probably be 50,000 naira. But now, like Airtel just advertised a 10,000 naira 4G phone.
I know we have like 10,000 naira 4G
yeah,
phones
just
all
recently. So now we are encouraging, because the phone actually, the availability of devices also drives the data. If we spread all the 4G network everywhere, but there's no device to use them, of course, it's of no use.
Okay.
So the device is another thing.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ayotunde Koka, in terms of infrastructure, mode of distribution, the spread, right now, interconnection and stuff, what can you say looking at the spread of internet right now? When we say the internet, this is actually a question for everyone. What will be your perspective when you look at that?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. If I start from a broader perspective in terms of total country, we have it's around about 117 million using the internet right now, recorded. From a global perspective, I think we're about top 7 in the entire world. And going back a few years, we were around about 97 million for a while. And then we had a recession where the numbers actually dipped to about 93 million. We went behind, if you look at it from a European perspective, that was actually behind Germany and Russia. They're the 2 most populous, the highest number of internet in Europe. Now we've actually gone even beyond Russia. So in Nigeria, we have more registered internet users now. The question is, what quality of internet do we really have in that 117 million? Okay, we just saw from the earlier presentation where a significant amount of that population on the internet is actually on 2G, and we have quite a lot on 3G, but we're now talking about a wish to get more on 3G, right? I actually think we have to make a stand to go to a minimum of 4G immediately. If you use India as an example, about 2 years ago, one of the telcos made an absolute push, encouraged by the government, creating the right circumstances and operating, conditions to push 4G across the entire country. And I was actually shown some information about the penetration of 4G in India. It was really quite remarkable, okay? So we need to actually stretch our ambitions beyond 3G and push for a significant penetration of 4G. Naturally, we have most of the concentration for penetration in Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt. Kaduna State is now starting to make a significant amount of progress with respect to internet penetration. Why? As an example, you have encouragement for companies to actually lay a significant amount of fiber around the state, and with the right policies, okay, from the state governor to encourage the right amount of penetration in those states. So I think it's going to come down to at the governor level, less so at the federal level, because it's going to be at the governor level and local council level, the right activities, the right encouragement being put in place to get significantly higher broadband penetration. It's the state governments that actually deal with right of way. It's the state governments that have the land that you put the masts on. It's the state governments that actually deal with all of the paperwork and the recording of anything to do with what the telcos need to do. So in that 117 million, for us to get the distribution of internet to everyone, then you'll find out that action has to come from the state government. However, I really do think where the federal government could actually act here is to, in some way, encourage the states, maybe through the federal allocation, for instance. If you meet internet broadband targets, you'll get bonuses on your federal capital allocations to the state. So maybe that'll drive some of the good behavior and create internet for all.
Wow, that will be interesting. Mr. Ruthman, I would like you to share something with us. What's the pattern of the traffic that we notice, even across where we feel right now we're doing fairly okay? Coming from where? What percentage of that is local? What percentage of it is international? I will still allow Shegun to give us his own insight. I'm sure you're connected to the exchange point. The percentage of your traffic that goes there, but I will first want to hear from.
Okay, in Lagos, it's about 40% to sometimes so we did a survey recently. Some are as high as 60%.
60% local.
Some service providers, not all. Some are as low as 40%, 35%, those that are connected to the exchange point. But if you look at it in other states, in Abuja it's increasing, but it's really insignificant. And if you go to, for example, Kano State, where you have the most populous state in Nigeria, where you have 20 million people, unfortunately, we only have one local service provider. Wow. What I mean one local, it means the one that's the main office, in Kano. So we are in Enugu and we have 0 ISP, as in 0. There is no local ISP in Enugu that have an ASN number, an IP block that will be able to connect. So it's highly pathetic if you move across the country. The only places are Abuja, Port Harcourt, and, I can't really say, but all the rest of the country, there is nothing like local traffic. There is no service providers. And unfortunately, even in those places, it's just 2G network that you get from GSM operators. And unless a government find a way to intervene, the former president of Internet Service Providers Association of Nigeria is here. The size of ISPs in Nigeria is shrinking.
Can we attribute it to the big players swallowing up the small players?
Correct. The size, before now, there was no control. Everybody, as an ISP, you have a dish to the internet via satellite. So you have small service providers across Nigeria that are selling capacity. But when the operators came on board, they took away everything. And the cost of transmission, even if you want to buy as an ISP from Lagos, for example, to Kano, and you want to choose any of the service providers, they make it ridiculously expensive. You want to connect to the internet exchange point, you can't even afford it because it's more expensive to connect to the internet exchange point than to connect to the internet.
Wow. Shegun, it would be nice to hear your view about the spread. What percentage of traffic from your subscribers are local and what the international traffic?
Okay, so as of today, we have been able to localize 72% of the traffic, actually.
72%?
Yeah, but I would need to let you, come to terms with that and understand why 72%, First, we need to understand what the traffic profile of Nigerians, basically. So in Nigeria, we see that we do a lot of Facebook and Google content. So when I say Facebook and Google content, that means I'm talking Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, YouTube, and Android updates, basically. Put together all of this, they form 75% of the traffic, in the mobile space. So now, with the support of Facebook team and the Google team, they brought the POP into Nigeria, and also IXPN. IXPN drove this first they co-located with IXPN for some time, but now we have a private peering with them. So we've been able to localize up to 72%. So whatever we are going to the internet to take are the other contents that we do not have a cache for them here, or that are not a peer to the internet exchange. Because
let me just ask this again. The fact that 72% of the traffic is local now, did you transfer some of the benefit of that to the end users in terms of Naira and Kobo?
Of recent, I'm sure you saw the slash in data price, right? For this 6 gig for 1 week. I don't know if anybody saw it.
Yes.
6 gig. Yeah, that's part of the transfer we did to our end users.
But if I may intervene here, honestly, why you don't see the transfer is because if you look at the total operational cost of a typical telco or a big ISP in terms of operational cost, out of 100%, what is the ratio of the cost of transit, cost of internet access? So it's less than 20%. I already mentioned 40% is going to power, co-location, and the rest. Another 30% goes to salaries and all the rest of the overhead. By the time you notice, out of the 100% of operational cost, only 20 to 15% maximum, that is cost of transit. So from 15%, it has now dropped to 5%. So they have savings of extra 10%. Do you think they would want to push that 10% to the end users?
They can share that with the end users.
Okay.
You want to add something, but before you say that, I would like you to comment on this. From what we're saying, what has really changed in the last couple of years? What can you really say has changed that's bringing what we're seeing now? And maybe you could just, yes.
So I run a co-location company, so I give what we're seeing from that perspective, for instance, is that there are two things. There's a drive for more efficiency with the ISPs, right? But also publicly, there's much less tolerance for downtime, okay? Because consumers will switch. I mean, people call me to say, okay, well, I mean, what ISP do you use? I can't tolerate the downtime. I'm not getting the right speed, and so on. And because of the combination of those two things, we're finding that ISPs are now actually seeking areas of higher quality for underlying collocation, right? There's also quite a lot more interconnect activity that's going on. I mean, we work with IXPN to drive more traffic into the IXP, okay? And the uptake of that is increasing. So there's some good things going on here is that, these companies are seeking more efficiency with collocating and they need the quality, because the cost of getting the quality of collocation if you build yours is really quite high. So we're getting a significant increase in number of ISPs. So pretty much de facto now, ISPs will look for a high quality place to collocate. What we're also finding is an increasing footprint of the ISPs in terms of the amount of volume of space they require for hosting. So there's a link there somewhere. There's the pressure on pricing. There's a pressure on, they're now actually thinking about the transit, therefore they want to look into the IXP, and we work collaboratively actually with them to make sure they optimize that, okay? And there's also the increasing demand for much, much higher quality from anywhere, everywhere, not just places like Lagos, and that's driving up significant volume. But when I do comparisons again with India, I got this email. My friend, the MD of GPX, sends this blast out every now and then in Mumbai, right? So coincidentally, he actually just sent this for the very, very first thing this morning. They've increased now to something like around about 100 and, just Mumbai, right? 137 ISPs in the data center in Mumbai. Yes.
Did you say
137 ISPs, okay? For instance, we have pretty much everyone, that's about 37. There's a significant difference in the number of ISPs. Now, I'm not sure if that means fragmentation, and therefore the ISPs need to consolidate and have more, if it means increased quality. But certainly, if you look at just the numbers, we are significantly less. We're around about, what, 20%, 25% of that in the country, right? The whole of Nigeria right now.
Okay. That's quite interesting. Before we throw it to the audience to ask questions, what are we looking at? What should we expect in the next, let's say, 12 months? Maybe I would like to hear from Mr. What should we expect in the next 12 months within the internet space in Nigeria, based on the current trends of what we're seeing?
Okay. Oh, my mic is on me, sorry. Because you're holding it, so by default, I assume. Okay, before I answer that quickly, he mentioned networks in India, in one data center, 100 and something. If you go globally, there are small community-based ISPs all over the world. And those are the ones that drive broadband, not the mobile operators. Because the reality is, in mobile devices, can you power a secondary school with a mobile device, with a Wi-Fi hotspot from a mobile device in a remote village? So you usually need community-based ISPs. And therefore, if you look at it in Nigeria, the ISPs have shrunk. Right now, the total ASN number, autonomous system number in Nigeria, is around 181, registered based in AfriNIC record. Out of that 181, only 143 are active. So the total population, 112 million people are browsing out of 143 networks. And those 143 networks, substantial part of them are in the cities. So if you look at it, if you go to remote sites, you have ISPs that have ASN number. In fact, I've had people, last week somebody applied from Yola. They want to connect to the internet exchange point, but they couldn't, so that because of the cost of transmission. When you asked of trend, so to be honest with you, there is no major progress that we are really making. 4G and 5G, 5G is not yet here, but what I see is that government will really intervene. The infra calls will be available most likely from late this year to next year, and therefore we'll see the cost of transmission capacity dropping. And based on our increase in population, of course, the demand would really increase across Nigeria. And based on what we are doing at IXPN, we are trying to scale. We are trying to collaborate, for example, with Google and Facebook to start having caches in some of the remote sites across Nigeria. So that would also drive the cost of internet and increase the volume.
Thank you so much, Mr. Koka. What are we looking forward to, your view?
Yeah, I really do think we're at a tipping point in the ecosystem here, a positive tipping point, okay, where you start to see much more significant uptake in real internet access in the 117 million that are actually published. The way I think about it is we're kind of where South Africa was around about 5 years ago, before this, that kind of inflection point that they had. And, we've had a track record here when we get those kind of inflection points of leapfrogging and significant scale, okay? And my view, and it'd probably be useful for us to do this at the ngNOG next year, is to look back to what we see this year, is that we'll see a significant increase in the top-end numbers, okay? But the quality of the internet access actually will increase. And I think that this tipping point that we're seeing with respect to the uptake of increased collocation, right, will play through into the quality of internet subscribers that we had. And, the sort of presentation that we had previously will be changed. The tone will change, right? There's also something, we're about 33% broadband penetration now. Validated by the International Telecoms, ITC. Now, there's a push in the general leadership in the country now to say, how do we get to 70% in the next 3 to 5 year time scale? And it's the first time I've seen sort of a coordinated determination and push across general leadership in government and general leadership in the communities that we, in the telecoms environment, to say we will push and achieve this, right? That means we should see a significant uptake in the number of the percentage of broadband penetration and higher quality broadband penetration next year. I mean, I can only talk from an anecdotal level in terms of broad impressions of what I'm seeing. I also think that the broadband penetration for places like Lagos actually should be reported separately from the sort of national averages, because it'll give us an amazing insight into what the possibilities are, because Lagos looks, it's a sort of an ecosystem on its own. Now, I won't be surprised if we're already around about that 50-60% broadband penetration now of high quality broadband access. And if you look at the Lagos, 22 million, that's bigger than the combined population of Belgium and Netherlands. And Netherlands has what? African colocation space, right? The entire amount of colocation space in Africa is only 50% of what is in just Amsterdam. 50% of 1.3 billion people of what's just in Amsterdam. And Lagos is a bigger population than both of two countries combined. With the momentum we're having, with that kind of population, I'd be surprised if we don't get some amazing numbers by this time next year. And we should look back through to today, next year, to see what the differences are.
What it looks like. That would really be nice. From Shegun, what should subscribers be expecting in the next 12, 18 months? What would the space look like?
Okay, from the growth of the internet generally, at least in the last 4 years, we've been growing 100% year on year, right? The data in Nigeria.
Did you say 100%?
100% year on year, yeah. So that will not stop. That will continue because, we are still, 4G is just starting in Nigeria, so to say. You understand? Because we are just spreading the 4G and everything. So, and the prices of devices are dropping. So these together, they're forcing the data hub, So we are still on a steep growth. And in terms of the mobile players, let's say, hers, as it is, swallowing up the ISPs, I think it falls back to what Mr. Mohammed had said in the previous presentation, that we are not collaborating properly. How will an ISP spring up to pay for the right of way to power a very big generator and then still expect to sell at the same price that, an Airtel or an MTN who is using the same size of generator to serve higher number of subscribers? You can't compete in that space. Do you understand?
Sure.
So we need to introduce things like MVNO platforms, multi-vendor network operation, how it is done in other places where you don't need to even buy the infrastructure. You just need to go to, NCC needs to drive it, go to an Airtel or MTN.
You say NCC needs to drive it?
Yeah, NCC needs to drive that, So you go to an Airtel or MTN that I only need you to let me use your radio in this area of Nigeria, Meanwhile, you take all the transmission and all the costs. I don't need to lay a new fiber. I don't need to buy a new call device, I'll only take the traffic from you at the end. That is what is called a multi-vendor network operation. So we need to get to that point, actually.
Can I just, sorry to ask one question. Do you think the infracos, the infraco process and the licensing that's going on right now, will it achieve what you're talking about?
Yes, of course. It will.
Okay. Open mics. Do we have questions from the audience? Okay, sir. Can we get another mic quickly? In the absence of that, I'll just drop this so that you can use this. The mic.
Excluding SF.
Okay. Sorry?
You didn't mention it, excluding him.
Please just introduce yourself and then introduce yourself properly. Complete.
You want to sanction me from talking this morning?
You're an authority here, so you shouldn't be asking questions, though.
I was not going to ask questions.
Oh, okay. Don't ask questions.
I was just going to say that make sure when you organize events like this, exclude dinosaurs from coming. Because dinosaurs will cause a lot of problems. Okay? My name is Sunday Polanyo. I have the privilege of, now I'm a minister of the gospel, but for many years I was a minister of internet evangelism. And, in Nigeria, if you don't say who you are, people don't respect you. I have the singular pleasure of building the first internet exchange point in Nigeria. And probably the first UUCP connection to the internet. Maybe not in Nigeria, but in the southwestern part of Nigeria. And I received an email one day when somebody sent me a mail to say a company had started and the company would revolutionize the internet. And that company announcement that day was Google. So I was alive and doing the work when Google was born. But one mistake we make often when we sit like this to talk is that we forget to analyze things the way they are. Gentlemen, there's what we want. What we want. This is what we want. There is what we will ask for. That you are asking for something does not mean that is what you want. It probably may also not be what you need. All right? And finally, what you get may not align with all those things. And I'd like to explain my garbage with a very simple story from my birth. Running an internet business in Nigeria. When we started internet, there was just Unix to Unix copy, UUCP. No IP, no TCP/IP. So when the first TCP/IP connection came into Nigeria, I was already in the business of providing internet connection. So it's local area network, TCP/IP, but you have to do store and forward to connect to other TCP/IP networks. Do I make sense? So, when the first IP networks came, you needed 128,000 naira per month to connect to the internet. So the first thing we did was to say it should not be expensive like that. 5,000 naira connection to the internet. But you can only use it for maybe 2, 3, 4 hours a day. And the cheapest time is at night when everybody is sleeping. So good students like Tata are up at night doing night browsing. So it is not what you wanted. And I want to be very clear. That was not what we wanted. But that was what we could get. Am I making sense? So that I want to say where we are going. So that when we get there, you again say, okay, somebody mentioned that we will get there. Now, at that point, we found out that we could buy IP connection and break it down into multiple connections using some dumb process called network address translation, NAT. I'm sure everybody knows what NAT is. All right? So, you go to an ISP, buy a connection, NAT it, and sell it to multiple people. And the ISPs woke up one day and said, these new guys are eating our chicken. We have to stop them. So they jacked the prices of their links to smaller ISPs to how much? 1 million naira per month. So you need to now break 1 million into 20. Are you with me? Sell at 50,000 to be able to make 1 million. Prices went up. Then we put on our thinking cap again. Dele would remember this. We went to do the research and we said, okay, no problem. We'll buy 1 million from you, but we will use it only to transmit. We now went to a company called Interpacket in the US, whose business was in selling internet radio, high capacity internet radio. Put modems on it and receive 1 megabit from satellite, which was supposed to be radio data, not internet. Convert it to internet and resell. Suddenly, people could buy high-speed internet again, receive only, because the bulk of the traffic was received. Transmit was not the data, it was received. Then there was no localization. And what happened again? We were back in business at 5,000 naira. And then the people put on their thinking hats again, the bigger boys. How do we frustrate these smaller boys? And it's been a ding-dong affair. Today, the biggest headache for the operators is there a crop of young boys all over Nigeria who are cracking the codes. And they are selling Airtel for 500 naira for 10 gig. I don't ask what they do. I don't patronize them. But the truth is that what will drive the future is innovation. People will continue to innovate and innovate and innovate. And I want to beg Airtel, please keep NCC out of anything. Once you bring the regulator in to regulate technology, they will destroy innovation. If Google was to have been a Nigerian company, it will never start. Because it won't get all the licenses and permits to operate. It cannot innovate. So whatever you do, please keep the regulators out. The young boys and girls in the universities will continue to do research, innovative research. I was joking with someone yesterday. I said it is intellectual laziness for telecom providers to charge for USSD. You've already paid a plan to connect. Why am I paying extra to punch codes and send on the same network? So I would plead, ladies and gentlemen, let's focus on innovation. I don't know what will happen, but I know innovators will arise from among us to change the tempo in the next 5 years, and the next 10 years for connectivity in Nigeria will be glorious. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That's the grandfather talking. We'd like to hear from Nuruddin at the back there.
My name is Nuruddin Ibrahim Suleiman. I think we should give Reverend Sunday Fulayo another round of applause. He not only built the first ISP in Southwest, he also built the first ISP, though not owned by him, but he built the first ISP in the North, using telephone lines and modems. Now, to buttress some of the claims he said, don't put NCC in this thing. I'm sure Mr. Rudman too will attest to this. The first IXP was given to somebody as a license. Then you go to connect to the person, you need to now go through some contract and everything. The first ISP, NCC licensed an individual, not even a body. NCC licensed an individual for everybody to connect. So in the VNO you're talking about, NCC did something recently, I think about 2-3 years ago, which has never left the floor. They said a reseller that people go to buy internet from. All the smaller ISPs will go to buy internet from them, and they are the big reseller. It ended up being just similar to what MTN and Airtel are doing. You go and you become a recharge card seller and not an internet reseller. So they don't give you any equipment. You use the equipment because I was interested in the business. I came all the way from Kaduna to Lagos. We participated in a forum with them, and the whole idea on paper that NCC announced to the world was good. But after interacting, I was now told, well, sorry, we can't come to the north because there's no business case for it. That's okay, fine. Can we invest in the infrastructure? We will invest in the infrastructure. You don't need to bring anything. We'll pay for everything. But what model are we going to now put in? They said, okay, fine. You put up in, the infrastructure with your own money. We're only going to give you just 18 months for you to resell our recharge card. For you to resell our recharge, no, not for you to sell the service. You are not the one that will determine how much the service is going to cost. They determine that. Then after 18 months, it's no longer yours. They leave it open for everybody. So leave NCC out of it. NCC, I mean, we can even see from everywhere. Airtel is competing with their customers. MTN is competing with their customers. The same thing with Main One. Everybody is competing with their customer. I don't expect somebody who owns very large bandwidth to be selling 2 meg. 2 meg. So I think my own is, just like Mr. Folayan said, innovation. We are based in Kaduna. We've been working and competing with MTN, Airtel, everybody. And we see our life, we're still strong today. Thanks to some of the things we learned from Mr. Folayan, you have to be innovative for you to be able to survive. Just like you said, you set up a lot of things like, we all know power is the biggest problem in Nigeria. Before we started, one of the things we did was to overcome the problem of power. I remember there was one time when there was diesel problem. Very big problem all over the country. And some of the staff now said, so what happened to the diesel? I said, we don't need diesel, we don't use diesel. In fact, public utility is our own backup. We don't, the whole NOG is set up using solar panels and battery. And we have 21 hotspots in Kaduna all around, not from the public utility, but from UPSs, from batteries and solar panels. So that way, if you are very innovative, you'll be able to survive. You'll be able to compete with all the big guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bob. Before we go back to the audience, we'll be back to you. Mr. Coker, you said something about increasing the numbers of co-location and stuff like that. You gave the statistics about India and Amsterdam. Are you indirectly encouraging more companies like rack centers coming up, springing up in various parts of the country where for the small ISPs to survive, for them to co-locate?
Yeah, I get asked that question. So what's your plans? Are you going to be around the country and so on? I do believe that that's going to happen, that you'll get more co-location points, because the edge data center is a reality at different levels, okay? First of all is you have the mega data centers that you have at the global level. You have data centers at the country edge, which is, in a way, not in a way, it is what we do. We're sort of, it's an edge over here to other mega data centers globally. Now you'll find that there's another level of an edge that's going to happen much more closer to the point of use. So you see this mega, midi, micro architecture starts to emerge as you need to have compute very much more at the edge of use. At sort of the geopolitical zones, its ports will be much more sensible, similar to what IXP has been doing. The 6 geopolitical zones, you start to see anchor points around that. There's something I've been looking at as a possibility into the future. So we have all the MNOs within Rack Center and the ISPs. What that means, and that's where the tower companies like ATC and the other tower companies become quite interesting for us, because it means every mast, every telecoms mast in the country is actually connected to one place somehow. So that means for something, when you start to distribute the edge across the country, because you can then have this internetwork of efficient distribution of low latency, hosting to the point of use. And that's going to happen over the next couple of years, I think, quite rapidly within Lagos, for instance. Lagos is very focused. The Commissioner for Science and Technology was here yesterday, and I was talking about the intentions they have and the master plan that will come out for smart cities in Lagos. So you'll find more of these mega, midi, micro data center solutions starting to pop up. The challenge is to make sure that in doing that, you also have the inherent security and quality as well, and also power distribution that will allow us to optimize those. It's one thing with that statistic I gave about Amsterdam and Africa as a whole. you're going to find a significant uptake with respect to data and data center capacity in Africa. It's what we're starting to see, right? And what you'll find, certain hubs across Africa will start to emerge. Nigeria and West Africa, for instance, you've got South Africa, Eastern Africa. It'll be interesting to see how Ethiopia plays into that. And then it's sort of the two North African hubs. Funny enough, like Morocco and Egypt are starting to look more into Africa. It'll be interesting to see if you're seeing some of those statistics with some of the sort of hyperscalers here for Africa. So we're at the inflection point of that scale. I mean, just intuitively, it just feels it has to happen, because if you look at telephony, mobile telephony, and the penetrations we're seeing, right? The same thing is therefore bound to happen with cloud. Why? You can just, because there's this analogy I give of Africa being a sachet economy, right? People don't go out mostly to buy a pint of milk or a liter of milk. They'll buy the little quart, and you can see Nescafe in little sachets, and the milk is in little sachets, right? And that's how things sell. If you speak to Nestle and the way they've innovated in delivering, snacks and food and so on in those sachets, actually make a lot of returns out of it, much more. And it's been a big innovation for them. So how do we turn technology into sachets? It's cloud. So you're going to see a significant uptake in cloud technology. And how do you deliver cloud to the endpoint of use? It's interconnectivity. So once you get some broadband and reliable interconnectivity, so once you get that broadband continuing to increase, you need the hosting to support the broadband and the cloud to deliver these little sachets of technology out to that's where with the population we have, then starts to respond to the scale we'll see. I don't know how long it'll take for us in Africa to catch up with an Amsterdam. It's even what, London is twice Amsterdam. So even just London Africa is a quarter of data center capacity that you have in just London. Something it's just going to have to happen if you compare it to what's been happening in the mobile telephony, for instance.
I just want to respond regarding NCC. NCC have been supporting the exchange point. They provided the seed funding for the Internet Exchange Point of Nigeria. They are providing the links. I know, of course, as a government agency, a lot of people are complaining about them. But it's almost all government agencies. The problem is that there is no continuity. You have a new person, the head of the organization today. Tomorrow, there is a new head. Due to that, this lack of continuity, that's why there is no drive. The National Broadband Plan was initiated by the former minister, Omobola Johnson. When the new guy came in, Adebayo Shitu, to some extent he felt, okay, this is somebody's initiative. Do I really drive it? At the end of his entire tenure, only 2 meetings held of the National Broadband Council, which was supposed to meet every single quarter to evaluate the entire goals and objectives of broadband in Nigeria. So that's the problem. So the solution is collaboration. You see, when we don't talk, people cannot come and talk against government. That's why government is going away with it. I told the stakeholders in a meeting, huge, almost all the telcos were there. I said, look, why don't you come together, have a national agenda for government every single year. By January, you land in government office and say, look, these items, 3 of them, based on priority, are the challenges of the telcos and the ISPs, and we want you to address them. At the end of the year, you evaluate what have they done on that. But I can tell you, the community cannot come together. They cannot do anything because within themselves, they are highly fragmented. Already they are enemies because in the field, they are competing against each other. For them to just come together, it will never happen. I just told Andrew today regarding this continuity aspect. I am from Jigawa State. A governor built a hospital, women hospital, beautiful, state-of-the-art, 85% to 90% completed. Before he could hand over, conclude it, a new government came in. Do you know they abandoned that project for 8 years? The hospital got dilapidated. Nothing happened for 8 years until APC came back. Then they now concluded the project. And there are stakeholders. In Duse, we have a first-class EMIA. We have all the key stakeholders. Nobody wrote in papers. Nobody challenged the governor that this is a state project that will make an impact. You should do something about it. Do you know what? We only complain when it affects me. If it affects us, you are on your own. I could narrate countless stories like this. So the solution to our problem, my brother, is to keep talking and to leave personal interest aside and put common interest together and challenge government. Then you will see result.
Thank you. I think that is very, very clear and straight. Okay, let's hear from you.
Okay, fine. My name is John, Chief Solution Architect for Zoracom. Zoracom is into Unified Network and Service Management as a service. It's more of a question. It's kind of confusing to me after we have said much about collaboration, innovation, working together, and this statement you made that it's expensive to connect to internet exchange than to connect to the internet. Am I correct?
I think you just
No, let me clarify. It's more expensive to connect from a remote site.
Okay.
For example, if you are in Kano, or let's assume there is an ISP here in Kaduna, we spoke yesterday, he wants to connect to the exchange point. But I said, you can connect from Kaduna to Abuja. He said, well, the cost from Kaduna to Abuja is more expensive than the cost of internet in Kaduna. So it's not the exchange point, it's the transmission capacity that is expensive.
Okay, fine. So, like you said, we have to bring in, we can't do without the government. So, what is the plan? What is a roadmap? I know you are involved in it, but what is a roadmap? We need to have a roadmap on how to make this price achievable to some of the remote ISP, because it's a concern. I remember I started working with an ISP as a young person, but I don't think the ISP survived for 2 years.
As I said, let me tell you this. I happen to be part of the first national broadband, and coincidentally, I was the only private person on the second National Broadband Council.
Okay.
And we had 2 meetings. Out of those 2 meetings, the minister came and left the first one. The second one, he didn't even attend. And I told them clearly, the ministry guys are here. I know that some people are recording you. This is the reality of the matter, and this is the truth. Publicly, I said, as a minister, if he cannot come and stay where there is discussion on national broadband, where else should he be? Because that is the fundamental. Without a plan, you see, if we don't have, it's not about the speed, but it's about the direction.
Sure.
If we don't have a goal, we cannot go anywhere. And that's the most important document in Nigeria as of that time. And the minister will come, 30 minutes, he's out. He's somewhere. I don't know where. I will have my own time in Lagos. I'll fly all the way to Abuja to attend a meeting where ministry guys are discussing issues and challenges of the telecoms. And I said, you cannot talk about the telecoms. He who wears the shoes knows where it pinches. You are here discussing about how they will expand and put broadband and all that. The finances, at that time while I was talking, there was devaluation of Naira. I said, who is going to give them the USD to buy all the equipment and the devices? You see, the problem is we don't communicate and we're all scared of government. And right now when I'm talking, I'm scared though.
Thank you so much.
But this is our own country, and I'm concerned if we don't talk, we cannot correct it and we cannot make progress.
Sure, we have to talk.
Sorry, please. Sorry. Let somebody else have the mic so that we don't stay on it like that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Simon from Yabatech and also fiber optic engineer. Well, the government will do their little, but I believe the ISP should be willing to take internet to everyone. I can't see willingness in the ISP yet because it seems as if they are fighting in a closed environment where we have so much opportunity everywhere. Airtel, MTN, Glo, May1, we're fighting in Lagos, and they can't innovate and move out. I was involved in a project that MTN need to lay fiber. The fiber damage from Ojota to Chagamu. And in the design they are trying to do, they are just laying the fiber. I was involved in the project. Just laying fiber from the damaged one straight to the base station. And I said, who must have designed this? Can't they have pops at Magboro, pops at this place, Mowe Bafo, pops at, no, just have pops around and spread to the places. They're just laying straight fiber to the base. What kind of design is this? Airtel did the same thing at the Jede. I was involved in that project too, but I'm one of their consultants to a contractor. They were laying fiber to base stations. They are not taking it to the last mile, to plan for some estate that are enclosed and the rest. It's imagine the ISP are just focusing on mobile subscription. And to me, it's like a fraud on Nigerians. We have so much of internet, and the ISP are just focusing on, GSM, mobile, and mobile is just very little to what internet that we can get to use. Please, ISP need to really remove selfishness and whatever they want to do, need to come and make it happen for us. It's possible. They can do it for us. Thank you.
Sorry, before Shegun comments, let's hear from myself.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're struggling to look for a ladder to pluck some things in the sky, or there's some fruits already touching our noses. If you listen to the goodwill messages this morning, the man from Lagos State said we will put fiber everywhere in Lagos. How many people heard him?
I heard him.
Everywhere. But he said we will not take the fibers into people's homes. Did you hear that? I think if we are going to do something right today, we should live here with a strategy. Those who want to see how they can take the Lagos State government fiber and put it in every home for every child to have. Stop bashing the GSM providers. They've invested money. They are in business. They are not a charity. They are not a non-governmental organization. Let's keep our focus. All right? So I expect out of here, instead of us pointing fingers, who has not done what? Volunteer yourself. Here I am, send me, not send my brother. Let us see how we can have a delegation go to Lagos State government tomorrow to go and discuss how can network operators in this room, the Yaba Techs, the Yaba ecosystem, everybody tap into this thing Lagos State wants to do, so that when it happens, you are all in business. At that point in time, the Airtels will be coming to beg you to buy bandwidth, and you will be telling them we have Google Cash already. So let's be proactive and not keep hammering at government and operators who have invested good money. How do we pluck the low-hanging fruits? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do you still need to comment on that? I think he has tidied that for you.
I think I need to tell him first that God bless him, because he's actually seeing things from the two sides of the lens, you understand?
That's why he's
like yesterday when I was here when talking IPv6 and all the like, we like to see things from the technical side more than the business side. But you should never forget that, operators are pumping several millions of dollars. And if you're a businessman, the first thing you're going to do is the one that will return your money. You need a return on investment, isn't it? How long can your shareholders wait, to give them the return on investment? Do you understand? So you said they were laying a straight fiber. The first thing they wanted to do is to get connectivity, to the guys that are there. Give them the connectivity. Let's start spinning the data. Let's start getting the money. Before we start thinking of putting the DWDMs and the ADMs in between them, for what? For now. We don't have a need for it for now. But it's something that can be done When we want to do the fiber to the home later, we could go buy the DWDMs, put it in between there, do the connection, But since we don't need it for now, why do we need to waste it?
Thank you
do
so
you know
much.
how much a DWDM card costs? Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Just put it in there for what? It's not making any good sense. So for us, it's not a business sense. That's why we don't do it. Okay?
Thank you so much, Check. I saw your hand there, somewhere there. Any other question, comment? Okay, Nuruddin there.
Sorry, one more thing I would want to contribute to this. This is regarding the cooperation between ISPs. Just like someone mentioned, that is the biggest problem we have. Right from onset, we're always trying to outdo each other and don't want to work together. I came for ISPAN meeting twice from Kaduna just to show commitment. But unfortunately, those in Lagos that we expect were going to drive the whole thing, it is either you have somebody who is trying to lead based on his own agenda, or somebody who just simply feel. I mean, we even had a forum where we said, okay, come, we want to revive ISPAN. What's your own opinion? I was shocked when some members, some old founding members said, you're wasting your time, please just throw it into the dustbin. It even got to the point where there was insult between some two people. And some people who are not, Mr. Falayan was one of those people who tried to call the ISP back. Unfortunately, just like you have between GSMs, you have the same thing with the smaller ISP. They never see eye to eye. They never want to work together. And as long as you don't want to work together, there is no way you can compete with the big guys. They have the money. They have the backing of government. Because they are the 3 or 4 too big to fail as far as government is concerned. Government base their statistics right now on the GSM, not the smaller ISPs. So as long as the smaller ISPs are not ready to work. I mean, surprisingly, just yesterday, Mr. Dewole sent something to the ISPAN. I don't know, maybe that annoyed them. So people just simply exited the group. I was shocked. Very, very shocked. So as long as we cannot come together to work together, then there's no way we can get it. No matter what government does. If we don't come together, no matter what government does, no matter what it does, as long as the ISPANs are not ready to work together, then there's no way we can make it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A comment, another question or comment from there.
My name is Benjamin. I actually want to ask a question before making a comment. Do this GSM company run at a loss? Since they've been in this country, have they ever run at a loss? Why I'm asking this question is this. Is anything wrong if they should invest, partially in what we are saying, all this program we are doing, would they ever run at a loss if they invest on this program? Instead of waiting on the government, I will try to blame NCC. Because as far as I can remember, whatever they do, whatever program they roll out, they always make gain. So, do you think now, if they decide to invest heavily on this, will they run at a loss?
Yes, I think so. And I'll give you an example.
All right.
In 2014, Airtel decided to do Wi-Fi hotspots around the campuses and everything and all of this. We bought everything. We bought the core equipment. We did everything, And because of this, people saying pay rent here, do this and do that, the few ones we were able to float, we ran at a big loss. Okay. And it's no longer in existence today.
Okay.
Yeah, the same thing with MTN WiMAX. You understand? You heard about MTN WiMAX some time ago. Are you still hearing about it? Yes, we can run at a loss, if we do the things that the customers do not really need. Or probably if we get frustrated by some constraints in the market, we can run at a loss, definitely.
Okay. They are in business. Yeah. Virtually every business will run at a loss and make other contingency plans to balance up. Don't they do that?
Sorry? I didn't get that.
I say every business run at a loss and they will now make a contingency plan to balance it up.
Yeah.
Do they do that?
But how long will our shareholders wait for us to balance it up?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You need to consider that in business.
Thank you so much. Any other comments, questions from the audience? In the absence of any, on a final note, where are we right now? what are we looking at? Maybe let's start from Shegun and then we'll run through that.
Okay, so quickly, I took some bashing on NCC the other time. Let me quickly clarify that, the spectrum that NCC sells to us today, we cannot use it to do MVNO because we have a constraint on it. You understand? We cannot resell spectrum or give it to another person to do. So that was why I made that comment that we need NCC to drive, the floating of other ISPs on existing infrastructure. Because without that constraint, the cap being taken off, we can't do anything. So that's why we need the place of NCC in that perspective. But where are we right now? So, of course, Lagos used to be the only central point because I heard a comment the other time that everything Lagos, Lagos, Lagos. Lagos used to be the only gateway to the internet, rather. But now we are decentralizing because even in the trend of the industry going from 3G, 4G, 5G, the data core has to go from a central point to a distributed one, which Mr. Coker was also saying the other time. To reduce the latency, you bring the content close to the user. So in the mobile space, we are spreading our core, and with the support of our big partners like Facebook, Google, we are installing caches close to the user. You understand? So you want to take a content, if you're in Abuja, you're browsing a Facebook content, you don't fetch it from Lagos. You actually fetch it from Abuja. That's happening today right now. You understand? And we want to do the same for all other content as much as possible. So going towards the next 12 months, 18 months, yes, we are still spreading, we're still growing, and data is still growing very fast. And we're also considering taking fiber to people's home. It's also in our agenda, But first, we need to drive it from the mobile space. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Coker.
Yeah, I'll build on what you said, so perhaps philosophically. The NCC, and they're seen as the change in being much more proactive as a regulator, and how do you grow and build the market, right? That's the kind of trend we're seeing with the NCC. And that's good, where the regulator also has KPIs set so that it drives the right behavior as far as the industry is concerned. Because really, instead of fighting fiercely for a small cake in an environment where that cake could be grown, you need to grow the size of the cake so everyone's bit is much bigger in collaborating for that. Also, from the innovation point of view, we're blessed with a very dynamic youth, really. They just really want to get on and innovate and move forward. And we're going to see some huge innovations come out of this country, in my view. We're already seeing that, but significantly more in the next few years. If you look at the youth, they want good governance. They don't want government. They just want good context set by the government. Let's have good governance and get on with it. In conferences like this, you'll see an indication of how this country is changing and also has changed. The older guys, 50, 60-year-old, put their hand up. Government must do this, the government must do that, and the government must do anything. The younger guys, up to about sort of 35, 40, will say, hey, we just want to innovate. We need governance. We don't want government. Thank you very much. And that's the change that we're actually seeing, and that will play through into a lot of the innovation and collaboration that we'll see in the country.
Thank you so much. I think that means there is a better future ahead for us in this country.
Yeah, they mentioned what I wanted to mention, but my last comment will be that we're all part of the problem.
You say we're all part of the problem? We are all part of the problem. I just wanted everyone to hear that.
The people in government are who? Are the same human beings are Nigerians. That's the truth of the matter. And an ISP here, somebody told you that they don't collaborate between each other. So it's a combination of the citizens, the telecommunication companies, government, with all the regulators. Because the telecoms, I can assure you, they're really, really struggling to make it. I have a network. Someone will just go. There is a time in Abuja, someone went, we don't know who, burnt a manhole where hundreds of cables are interconnected. Just an act of sabotage. I witnessed people in Kano destroying government property, just like that. So it's a combination of all the factors, and I think for government to address it, we need to get reoriented. We need to understand that we have to come together to make progress. And I will just, my last comment is I will plead with government to change the NTA station that is running 24/7 now on National Assembly to National Orientation. That's all.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.